Hi folks, Six here. I've just come to the end of the filming of the second batch of this high-end knife series that is effectively showing the collection of a friend of mine who lives nearby, who wishes to remain anonymous, but he has a very good collection of really quite high-end knives. You know it's a high-end collection when knives like the Capara and the Subvert are, if you like, almost the bottom end of the collection, and it is more commonly populated with things like Shirogorovs and weapons, Alamics, and the likes that are, somewhat up there, shall we say, in the knife world. So I just wanted to give a quick sort of a wrap up of this group and just give an overview of what I thought of them, because although they're all lovely knives, and if one were offered one of them, it would be hard to turn it down and you say there's anything wrong with it. And I did pick these 6 as ones to show you, which I was hoping would kind of give a bit of a spectrum. Wouldn't do all the highest end knives or all the lowest end knives, but a bit of them all, and just give you an overview of basically where I was with them, and if one could keep any of them, what would I pick? Because none of there isn't a knife here that I wouldn't be very happy to have in my collection. There was only one that really didn't speak to me, and one I found a little bit difficult on the ergos, because of my clumsy hands, not because of the knife. So I'll just kind of a quick go through them. This was probably the Capara here. Spyderco Capara is the one that probably didn't speak to me very much, and mainly it was because I struggle a lot with the fact that it just doesn't feel right in my hand. It feels too thin and small, and I've got big hands, so that's maybe a problem. And I just wasn't keen on the compression lock. I have to kind of throw it at myself to shut it, and the whole point of the compression lock is you should be able to close the knife without having your fingers in the path of it, but I just can't get that to work. Now that's my fingers, that's not the knife, so it kind of puts me off this knife, and I just didn't enjoy fiddling with it so much. But there are an awful lot of people out there that will tell you it's a real gem in the Spyderco lineup, and I can understand why, particularly as I say it comes in at just £200, which in this company is cheap. Now the Subvert is actually not that different in price, and has in some ways similar problems with the ergonomics. It's not quite as bad, but I actually love this knife because it's it being orange as well helps, because it's like a comic parody of a knife. But I can actually see it also being quite useful if you worked outdoors or you did outdoor-y stuff. You could, this great thick blade, and it's very weight forward, and so on. You could use this knife and give it a good thrashing and know that it wasn't going to let you down. So I rather like this knife, but it's not the one I would pick out of these. Now, Shirogorovs. Now, I love Shirogorovs, and I actually quite like this monkey's edge frag pattern. My only qualm with this knife is it's a little bit on the small side for my big hands. Now, it's still too big to be UK legal, so if you're going to not be UK legal, you might as well go all out and do the job properly. And the F95 that we had last time, to me, was just a better knife for me. Though one could easily argue that this is actually objectively a better knife than the F95, because this is a it's a more modern one because this is M390 steel as opposed to the I think the other one was S30, I think. I've not got it anymore, so I can't look it up. And of course, this has got the monkey's edge frag pattern finish on it, which is just really, really nice. Now I'll go to the end here. You get a clue of what I really liked. This is a very nice knife, and if I could get over the fact that I keep trying to put my fingers over the blade, which makes opening it almost impossible, I could get to really like this knife. It's slim, it's neat, it's svelte, but it's actually much bigger. There's a lot of cutting edge to it than you would think. So I was kind of fond of this one, and of all the Shirogorov that we've had so far, this one was probably my favourite. But it still wouldn't be the thing I would choose out of these. And I'll just take these ones out of the way now for a moment and just leave us with these two, because these are the two that really spoke to me, and they spoke to me in different ways. Which one will we talk about first? Let's talk about the Alamic. I love this knife. I'm not sure this would be the pattern I would choose. I think I'd go for something a little bit less. Oh, it didn't flick. That's the first time that's happened to me. First time in the couple of months I've had this. And that's one of the things I really like about it. It's never let me down. Well, I probably let it down. I'm not good at flipping knives. So when I get a knife that flips so consistently like this one has done to date, that sells itself to me straight away. I mean, listen to that. It's got a lovely solid action. And this is a knife that you could carry and use, and you could get this out at the office, and you may not want to flick it like that because there's bound to be somebody that's just, pooed their panties. But you can open it with the thumb opening, and if you've got any dexterity, you can roll that open easily. You can probably reverse flick it if you want to. You could open it with two hands. There's plenty of real estate to get hold of if you want to just do a old school quiet opening and holding it down in your hand at the choked up position. It's only a 2.5 inch blade. It's non-threatening. It's very smart. Engineering is brilliant. It's a lovely, lovely knife. And yeah. And then finally, there is the Medford Infraction. Now, I like Medford knives. Now, I know that Greg Medford can be, challenging. He's quite strident in some of his views, but what he does do is he makes knives that are just solid. Now, I have an Ombile, which is effectively this knife's big brother. And unfortunately, its big brother is very big. Now, I've carried this knife an awful lot. I've had it a long time, and I've carried it an awful lot, and it has been used to the point of almost being abused. If it was any other knife, you probably would call it abuse, but because it's a Medford, you don't, because they're designed to be used and abused. You've only got to look at the thickness of it. It is a thick, solid, chunky knife. Greg always says, this is the sort of knives you can use to prise open your car door. Why you'd want to prise open your car door, I don't know. And why you'd want to do it with a knife and not crowbar, I don't know. But it's nice to know that you could do it with one of these knives. The downside to this knife is it's very big and it's very heavy, and you need to make sure your trousers have got a good belt on them, or they're going to end up somewhere around your ankles. And you know, that just is true. Plus, in the UK, if you were to want to risk carrying a locking knife, you wouldn't want one like this. It's got a 4-inch blade on it. It's a behemoth. So it's nice to find that there is a version of this knife which is I know, I don't know if it comes over as being the baby brother, but when you put it in your hands, it feels very much the family resemblance. There's a bit more machining in this. That's got to be said. The emboulet is probably the plainest of the knives that Medford do. Even on the back, you've got the little INF1 milled out, but you know, it's very much is the smaller version, and you've got rid of the external relief as well, which is a pet thing of mine. But so this knife, before I get rid of the emboulet, bring it back for a second. It has a similar thickness to it. I think it's slightly thinner. I haven't actually measured it, but it does kind of feel very slightly thinner. But it doesn't lose any of that solid feeling, even though it's probably getting on for half the weight. It also has, and this will, I'm sure I'll fail this because Medford flipping actions are not great, and not great combined with my rubbish hands is a problem, but I've found this works quite well. My emboulet is very, very temperamental as to whether it'll flip on it, and you almost have to kind of open it a couple of times before you try flipping it, which rather defeats the purpose. You have to give it a lot, well, I have to give it a lot of wrist to make that work. But maybe you can see the similarities there. You know, there's enough differences. This has this sort of web in the cutout, whereas this is completely cut out, and the stop pins are covered in the emboulet, which they're external on the Infraction. But if I could keep one of these knives, this is the one I would be keeping. There are a number of times that this knife, this very knife, went in my basket in Heine Haynes, and I'm quite glad that it was bought, because otherwise I would have bought it, but it was probably more than I could really, or should have really afforded at the time. So it's probably just as well I didn't get it. But you know, this is a knife I do aspire to own at some point in my life, and I may well do. The Alamic, yes, if I pulled my Christmas cracker and one of those fell, I'd be over the moon. But whether I would go to the bother of buying one, I don't know. But this is a knife I certainly would aspire to own at some point in my life. And if you know, if one was keeping one of these, this would be the one that I would keep, and this is the one that I'm going to miss when it comes to handing them back. Last time it was a toss-up between the Rockstead Higo in Desert Ironwood and the Shirogorov F95, both of which are wholly impractical knives, really. If I had either of them, I would use them and so forth. But this is such a knife one could really use. It makes the emboulet a little bit more practical. Though I love my emboulet. People say Medford knives can't cut. Well, I can tell you, this one is very sharp and it's cut an awful lot of things. It works very well, and I dare say this will be just as useful. They have these hollow ground blades, so they're reasonably thin enough behind the edge, and they certainly sharpen up. My emboulet is D2 and this is S35 VN, but S30 yes, F95 VN. And, you know, they're perfectly easy knives to sharpen, get a good edge on. They hold an edge reasonably well. Are they as good as M390, 20CV, Magna Cut? Probably not. But I've had good use out of, you know, my Sabenzas are both S35 VN. So I'm very happy with those. I quite like S30 as well. You know, I'm very happy with those sorts of steels. So, yep, of the 6, this will probably be my favourite, and that might be a controversial result, given its comparison with a Shirogorov, some Spydercos, and mostly that Alamic whippersnapper, but that's where I am. So, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully we'll get the next series starting up. From when you watch this, it'll be next week. From now, it'll be several weeks in the future. But thank you very much for watching. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of these, then please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. Thank you very much. Bye. Oh, and one last thing before I go. Thank you very much again to the person that owns these knives and for lending them so that I can showcase them on this channel. For somebody, you know, who doesn't really know me very well, we've only met on 2 occasions, and yet he trusts me with thousands of pounds worth of his knives. So I have to just say thank you very much. You know who you are. In some ways I wish I could name you on here, but I understand it's your wish to stay anonymous, and I'm fine with that. But thank you very much, and yes, thanks everybody. See you all soon. Bye.